We'll begin the Gemara today towards the bottom of Daf Mem Hey Mid Beis, 4 lines from the bottom where it says V'sava Rab Yehuda. We're in the middle of a subject here. The Gemara quoted Rab Yehuda that said before regarding the Malchus, that a person that was Moitzi Shemra, he let out a bad rumor about his wife that she had a relation with someone else after the Edison, and he gets Malchus for this. So what did Rab Yehuda say? Rab Yehuda says that the husband will get Malchus whether he had a relation with her already, he was boiler already, or not. Doesn't make any difference. Either way, he gets the Malchus.
Whereas?
There's another opinion that the Gemara quoted that he would only get Malchus if he was boiler already, not if he was not boiler yet.
Right.
Now the Gemara brings that Rabbi Yehuda in another brisa seems to contradict what he said here. Frag the Gemara, V'sava Rabbi Yehuda, Lilka is loike. Is this Rabbi Yehuda's opinion that you always get Malchus mikol makan, regardless of what the situation is, whether the husband himself was already boil his wife or not? But Vatanya and Abraisa, we learned Rabbi Yehuda said, Baal loike. If the husband had relations with her, then he let out a bad rumor and it was false, then he gets Malchus. Loi Baal ain't loike. But if he himself was never boiler, she will not, he will not get any Malchus. Rav Nachman by Yitzchak, so Rav Nachman by Yitzchak answers, Loike makis mardis mit Rabbanan. When it said in the previous brisa that Rabbi Yehuda says it doesn't matter, he'll always get Malchus, it doesn't mean the Malchus min Atayra, which is 39 lashes, but it's makis mardis mit Rabbanan, and that's a Malchus which doesn't have a designated number to it, but it's a different kind of Malchus. It's only mit Rabbanan. But min Atayra, you only get Malchus if he, the husband, was boil her first. As the Gemara will later bring the psukim for the source for this. But Rav Papa has another pshat. Really, as Rashi explains, the basis of Rav Papa's answer is Rabbi Yehuda holds you only get, again, you will get Malchus regardless. Whether he was boiler, whether he was not boiler first, he let out a bad rumor that was false, either way he's going to get the Malchus. Now, my boil like it, why is it that in the second brisa we quoted, Rabbi Yehuda says only if he was boiler first, then he's going to get Malchus, the Tani Hasam, that it would be brought there from there, another brisa. Mamay. The term loike there actually refers to money. The payment of the knas will only be if it was boiler first. If it was not boiler first, there's no payment of the knas. So the Gemara wonders on this answer, Malchus? Is this something that we refer to this way? We refer to a payment of money as the term of loike, as Malchus? That how can we say that that's what he meant? That if he was boiled, then loike, and if not, he doesn't get loike means Malchus. It doesn't mean money. So the Gemara brings, we do find in one place where it uses the term loike for money. In V'hotanya, as we learned in the Braisa, regarding the following halacha, V'ha'oime chatzi erki alai. Person that says, half of my value I take upon myself to give to Hektish. Now the halacha regarding a person that's saying my erech, my value should be given to Hektish is it goes by age. There's certain set amounts you have to pay according to the age of the person, and the Torah says that, let's say for example, you have to pay 50 shkalim for a certain age. But when the person says I'm going to give half of my erech, so then he's going to give 25. So noisan chatzi erka. So he gives 25, half of his erech that he said. Rabbi Yosef bar Yehuda argues and says loike. So now loike would usually and simply mean he gets Malchus. V'noisen erech shalim. And he has to give his full value that he said he's going to give, even though he only said actually that he's going to give half. But when he says half, he's going to have to give the full value. So first the Gemara explains, here we see this expression of loike must be speaking about money. Loike amai. Why would this person get Malchus? What's he doing wrong? Adarab, he's making a pledge to donate money to Hektish. Rav Papa, so Rav Papa explains, here you see what it means is as follows. Loike be'erech shalim. The term loike here means, although he didn't intend to give his full value to Hektish, but nevertheless he gets hit, so to speak, with this full payment that he's now obligated to give, the full erech of that age bracket that he's in, that he has to pay. Now the Gemara explains, what's the reason for this? If this person only pledged to give half, chatzi erkoi, half of his value, so why should he have to give the whole? So the Gemara explains, gzeire chatzi erkoi, because there's a decree that people are going to confuse two expressions that are very similar. The expression we spoke about before, when a person says chatzi erkoi, I give half of my value or his value, that's one expression. Otu, now you may confuse that with another expression, which is erech chatziyai, the value of his half. What's the halacha when you say the value of half of this person? In such a case, you actually are obligating yourself to give the full value. And the reason is because when you say that I want to give to hektish half, the value of half of this person, so you are obligating yourself to give the value of a limb or an organ of this person's body, which his whole life depends on this. If you take a person and you slice him in half, so what happens? He dies. That means that saying that I'm giving the value of half of this person really means the full person, because there is no half a person. If, for example, Rashi says, if you say I give the value of this person's heart, the hektish, since the heart is the life of the person, without it doesn't live, that really means that you're giving the value of the whole person. Right? So therefore, in order not to confuse these two different expressions, one is erech chatzeh, and then you do have to give the full amount minatayre, because that's his whole life of the person is dependent on this. Or the expression of chatzeh, when you say half of the value, and then you should minatayre slice it into half, that he has to give only half. But these two expressions are very similar, so therefore, according to Rabbi Yisrael Bar Yehuda, Chachamim will geyser that in both of these expressions you have to pay the full value. The point is that we found over here in this braise that it uses the term loike, and it means really a money payment. It doesn't mean malchus. The Gemara continues now with other halachas and the sources in the Torah for the malchus and the money that this man has to pay when he accused his wife falsely. The Torah says that he gets punished for accusing her, so this is a money payment. Now that says there clearly in the pasuk. It says va'onshu oisei mea kesef. The Yisru, then it says that you should also afflict him zeh malchus. This means that he gets malchus. Bishleim of va'onshu zeh mamayin. The fact that va'onshu means money, the chsiv va'onshu oisei mea kesef. V'nosna lavia naira, and the payment goes to the father. Ela v'yisru zeh malchus. When it says that v'yisru means that he gets malchus, binolan. How do we know the term v'yisru refers to malchus? Amar Rabavo. So Rabavo says lamadnu. We learn it out in the following limud, which is interesting. We had similar before this. Yisru mi Yisru, the term Yisru that it says here regarding this person that accused his wife falsely, we learn it out from another term Yisru that it says by a ben seirer umayrer. There, the Torah as well uses the term v'yisru aisai, and v'yisru mi ben. And over there, by the ben seirer umayrer, when it uses the term Yisru, it uses the expression of ben. Right? It says ki yileish ben seirer umayrer. And then that term ben that it says by the ben seirer umayrer uben mi bin. We learn out from the word bin that the Torah writes in the parasha of Malchus, where it says v'haya in bin hakais harasha, that you give Malchus to the rasha. So therefore, the way this limit works is because by the story of this man that accused his wife, it says the term Yisru, and there's another place by Ben Seirer and later that it uses the term Yisru, and it uses the term Ben there as well. So because we compare the two, it's as if it writes the word Ben by this case of the Nara Merasa by the Maitzi Shemra, and therefore now we compare the term Ben that it says here to the term Bin that it says in the parasha of Malchus, that you get Malchus. So that's how we know that Yisru is Malchus. This is an extended Gzeira Shava. That's what it seems like it is. But it's not our usual Gzeira Shava. It's sort of a extended Gzeira Shava. Sagt die Gemara weiter. So, Azhare l'maitzi shemra minolam. Where in the pasuk do I have a warning for maitzi shemra? The rule always is you never get malchus unless the Torah warns you not to do this action. So even though we just proved that the Yisru means malchus, but you would not get malchus if it never says in the Torah a clear warning that one should not do so. Where in the Torah that does it warn a person not to accuse his wife falsely, and therefore he would get malchus? So the Gemara brings two opinions. Rabbi Lazar says, Miloiselech Rachel. We learn it out from this that it says that a person may not go Rachel, which means spread bad rumors about people and speak all kinds of things about people. So here as well, spreading a bad rumor about his wife is this lav that the Torah warns, Loiselech Rachel. Rav Nassan says, Mi vinishmarta mikoil davera. There's a different pasuk where it says that you should be careful from all bad things, which means not to speak falsely about someone, over here in this case, about his wife. So we have two different sources that could be the warning for this. So the Gemara explains, Rabbi Lazar, my time elamar mehai. Why didn't Rabbi Lazar learn out from the pasuk v'nishmarta mikoil davera? And says the Gemara, Hahu mi bayale lekad Rav Pinchas ben Yair. He learns out from that pasuk a completely different thing, like Rav Pinchas ben Yair said. What does this mean? That you should be careful from something which is bad. The Kanam of Pinchas ben Yair. Pinchas ben Yair said, Al Yahared Adam Bayayim. A person should not think during the day about inappropriate things. V'yavi lidei tumah balayla. And this will cause him to come to have tumah of keri at night. That's what the pasuk is speaking about. Minishmarta mikol davara. Davara is the tumah. So you should be careful not to cause upon yourself to come to such tumah. So it's a whole different subject. Rav Nasa, according to Rav Nasa, my time Elomar mehai. Why didn't Rav Nasa learn out from Leiselech Rachel? So Ahu, he also darshans that pasuk differently. Ahu azhar lebezdin. That pasuk is actually speaking to a bezdin. And what is the pasuk saying? Shelo yehei rach lezeh v'kosher lezeh. When a bezdin is judging people, they are not allowed to be soft to one person and harsh on the other. That's what Rachel here. Rachel here means do not be soft on one while you're harsh to the other. Continuing in more halachas that the Braisa says regarding the Moitzi Shemra. Lo yamaleidim boy vayduni. If this man, this husband, never told Eidim, come and testify for me that my wife was mizana with someone after the Edison. These Eidim came on their own initiative to say testimony about this woman that she was mizana after the Edison. So then, the husband, the man, does not get malchus, and he will not have to pay the knas either. What? The Eidim came on their own, so therefore he does not get malchus for this. He did not speak to them. He didn't bring them. Why? He didn't do anything wrong. He didn't let out any bad rumor. He didn't say anything. Even if it turns out to be a lie, what these Eidim said, he, the husband, didn't do anything here. Oh. Then the Braisa says, he v'zei memel. So now, if it turns out what the Eidim said is true, so then she, the wife, and v'zei memel, and these Eidim, that if it turned out that these Eidim lied and they're Eidim Zaymim, Magdim and Lebeis Haskila, they get killed. So the Gemara immediately clarifies, and we had a similar thing before already. He Vizayim Me'as Lakadaitach. Could you say that both the wife will get killed? And that could only be the case if the Eidim said the truth. And also the Eidim are Zaymim, which means they lied, that both of them are going to be killed. How could you say that? Okay. Ella, the way to read the Braisa is Oihi Oy Zaymim Magdim Lebeis Haskila. Either her, if the Eidim said the truth, so that she will get skila, and if the Eidim lied, then the Eidim that wanted to give her skila, they get the same punishment of skila. That's the Braisa. Now the Gemara will deduce from this Braisa the following. What do we see from here? The loy amalu, because the husband did not ask these Eidim to testify for him that his wife had a relation with someone else, so therefore he will not get malchus and he will not have to pay a knas. However, if the husband approached these Eidim and said, come testify for me that my wife was mizana with someone after the Edison, afal gav deloy agrinu, even if he did not hire them, he didn't pay them for this testimony, he will still be liable for what happened and he'll have to get malchus and pay the knas. Says the Gemara, la fuke mid Rabbi Yehuda. This excludes from the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. The Tanya in Abraisa we learned Rabbi Yehuda says, Eina chayev, a husband will not get knas or malchus at sheyiskar Eidim, unless he hired Eidim to testify about his wife that she was mizana. My time with Rabbi Yehuda, what's the reason of Rabbi Yehuda? Where is his source? Amar Rabavo says he has a gzeira shava. Asya sima. He learns out the expression of sima that it says here, and this expression of sima it says elsewhere. Ksivacha, here it says, here the Gemara brings the pasuk. V'sam la alila is dvarim. He placed upon her this libel, this whole story of a libel that she had a relation with someone else after the Edison. So this is the term sima, sam, that he placed upon her. Uksiv hasam, there's another place in the Torah where he uses this expression of sima. This is by the halacha of not taking interest, ribis. Loisesimun olav neshech. Do not place on him neshech, which is ribis. So therefore we compared it to mala alan mamain, just like there, the expression of sesimun is speaking about money. Afkan mamin. Over here as well, when it says v'samla alilas dvarim, it means that he hired the Eidim to come and testify against his wife. Parenthetically, interesting point, the Ketzais Achoshen says, based on this Gemara that you see here, that one is allowed to hire Eidim. You're allowed to pay Eidim to come and testify for your benefit. You're allowed to hire them. Or it's just the Gemara is discussing whether you're going to be chayav to get malchus or the knas if it turns out that they lied. But the very fact that you hire them, that in itself is okay. That's what it seems. That's what it seems like from our Gemara. Okay, so this is a discussion in Paiskin.
How can you disprove those Eidim? You'd have to Eidim Zimamim
against
those Eidim.
Correct.
So
that's
not the thing to disprove.
Yeah. Okay. You're gonna have to bring a second group of Eidim. Yeah.
Okay.
Eidim Zayim. Amar Rav Nachman by Yitzchak, so Rav Nachman by Yitzchak added, V'chein Tani Rav Yosef Tzidoni bei Rav Shimon ben Yochai. Rav Yosef Tzidoni learned this by Rav Shimon ben Yochai. He also said the same like Rabbi Yehuda. Asya Sima. We have this Gzeir Shava of Sima to say that the husband will only be chayiv malchus and knas if he hired the Edom. By Rav Yirmiyah asked the question. By Rav Yirmiyah asked the question. Sochron bekarka. What is if he hired the Edom, and how is he paying those Edom? With properties, a little bit further down. He's hiring the Edom with paying them properties, not paying them money or any movable items. Mahu, what's going to be the halacha then? Will he be chayiv the knas and the malchus when he hires them in this way? And the reason why this is a question is because the whole source to say that he should be chayiv when he hired them is learning it out from ribbis, by interest. And over there in the pasuk of ribbis, it's speaking about metaltalin, that the ribbis that he's collecting is money or any movable object, not karka. So the question is, do we have the same limitation here? That only if he hires and pays the edim with money and not with karka. V'pachas mishava pruta mahu. How about if he hires Edim and he only paid them less, a very cheap guy, he only pays them less than a Shava Pruta. So what's the halacha here? Do I say that by ribbis that doesn't matter, so over here it shouldn't be counted as really hiring them? Or on the other hand, you could say, we know that Shava Pruta sometimes does matter. If a person steals less than a Shava Pruta, it's an Isser. So we see that Shava Pruta is also something. Or the question goes further, Shneim bepruta mao. If he has two Edim, so he's paying them a full pruta, but each one is getting a half a pruta. So each one is not getting a full pruta here. Is that considered to be that he hired the Edim? The Gemara doesn't resolve any of these questions. Now the Gemara brings up another few questions regarding the halacha of Meitzi Shemra. Ravashi asked, Haitzi Shemra ala nisuin harishainim. Mahu. He let out a bad rumor on his wife. He accused her falsely on a previous marriage. In other words, he was married to her, divorced her, and got remarried. And now he lets out a rumor about the first marriage, that after the edison of the first marriage, you had a relation with someone else. Mahu, what's going to be the halacha? Do I say that it's the same, like he let out a rumor for this marriage? Doesn't make a difference, this or a previous marriage or not? Another question, al nisue achiv mahu. What if a person is accusing his wife falsely, not regarding now when he's married to her? So what we're speaking about over here is a yavam. Her husband died without children, so she's marrying the brother. And after the brother gets married to her, the brother lets out a rumor, accuses her falsely that when she got married to my brother, after the edison, she had a relation with someone else. Mahu. Does that count for this halacha as well? That he would have to get malchus and knas. So the Gemara says, Pshoit mi yechada. Answer at least one of these questions that Ravashi asked here. So the Gemara answers the second question. The Tani Rabbi Yaina said that we learn out in the pasuk. It says, "As biti nasati leish hazeh." The man comes and says, a father comes and says, "I gave my daughter to this man." This isn't the conversation. The argument that there is between the husband and the father, and the father says that I married this man. From here we learn out that a father could marry his daughter off to whoever he wants. So from the word hazeh, we learn out lezeh v'lo liyavam, leish hazeh. Only for this man, if there's an argument about what happened in this marriage, that she had a relation with someone else after the edison, then the halacha of Meitzi Shemra applies. But if he was Meitzi Shemra regarding a previous marriage of the brother, that doesn't apply. But the Gemara is not being paishit if it's the same person that was married twice to the same woman. That the Gemara is not paishit. That is still ish hazeh. He's still the same man. Okay, now the Gemara comes back to something that was mentioned at the end of the previous Amud, and that is my Rabbanon or my Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. The Gemara mentioned before a machlokes between the Rabbanon and Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. Rabbanon's opinion is that the whole halacha of Meitzi Shemra is only when, again, according to the Rabbanon, that is, the halacha of Meitzi Shemra, it does not matter if the husband that's accusing her was Bailer already or not. Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov says the whole halacha of Meitzi Shemra only applies once the husband himself was already Bailer. So the Gemara brings a braisa that will bring this machlokes and the sources from the psukim for this argument. Okay. The Tanya we learned in a braisa. So first the braisa begins with the basic facts about how Meitzi Shemra plays out. Keitzat, Eitzas, Shemra. How does this play out when a husband is accusing his wife? Baal Bezdin, he comes to Bezdin, Vamar, and he says, Pliny, he says to the father, I did not find that your daughter was a psula. Now, Im Yesh Edin Shezin Satachtov. So the Brisa says, so if he can produce witnesses that will say that she was mizana after she was married to him after the edison, yesh la ksuba, she will get a ksuba of a mana. Okay, that's the words of the Brisa. The way she will get a ksuba of a mana. So the Gemara immediately asks, This can't be. Im yesh edim shezinsa tachtov. If we have edim that she was actually mizana after she got married to him, yesh lo ksubah, she gets the money of ksubah. Mana baskili. In such a case, we have to stone her. So how is she getting any ksubah? So the Gemara corrects the reading of the Braisa as follows. Hachikama, this is how you have to read it. Im yesh edim shezinsa tachtov. If there are edim that she had a relation with someone after she was married to him, that's after the edisin beskila. So then she gets skila, like the halach of a naira marasa that was mizana. Zinsa may cut it. But if edim say that she had a relation with someone when she was not an eshes, before the marriage to him, so then yesh la ksuba mana. So then she gets a ksuba of a mana, which is the amount that you get for a ksuba if you're not a basula. A baula gets a ksuba of a mana. Okay, now the Braisa continues and says, and here we bring up the machlokes between the Rabbanon and Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. Nimtza sheshem ra, einoi shem ra. What happens if it comes out that what he accused her of is not even true? So then, who like it? The husband gets malchus, v'noisim me'esela, and he has to pay the knas of 100 coins. And Rabbanan say, bein bal, bein loy bal. Doesn't matter if he himself already had a relation with his wife or not. Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov says, everything the Torah writes here, in other words, the malchus and the knas for the husband is not only written ela kishabal. Only if he was already boiler, then there's these things that he gets punished with. Otherwise, he does not get the malchus or the knas. So the Gemara now brings up the psukim where we can see the source of this machlokes. Says the Gemara Bishlam, Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. It's well understood, Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov's opinion. Hainu d'chsiv. So the pasuk says, Uboy la. Uboy la simply means that he had a relation with her. And then it says, Ve'ekra vileh. I approached her and then he accused her that she had already a relation with someone else before, after the Edison. So because it says Uboy la, that shows that the parsha of Moshe Shemra is only applicable after he had a relation with her. But according to the Rabbanon, how are we going to translate these words? Why does it say that he had a relation with her and then he approached her? So the Gemara says, according to the Rabbanon, does not mean relations. It means means ba'alilos. He comes to her to accuse her with a libel. And he comes and approaches her to speak to her about this matter. But it doesn't necessarily mean that he had any relation with her yet. Nevertheless, he's accusing her. He's going to be chayiv malchus, and he's going to get the einish also of paying the knas. Sorry. So the Gemara now is going to go through other psukim here in the parasha of Moshe Shemra, where we can question whether what the story of here is. Did the husband have a relation with her yet? Says the Gemara, it's understood according to Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov that says that he had a relation with her already. This is the meaning of the pasuk when it says, the husband comes and says that, sorry, I discovered that your daughter is not a basula. What is he saying? How did he discover this? Because he himself had a relation with her and there was no blood, which is usually the case by a basula. So it's understood. But according to the Rabbanan, what does it mean when the husband says to the father, I discovered that your daughter is not a basula? He never had a relation with her yet, necessarily, according to the Rabbanan. Answers the Gemara, what it means is, I didn't find for your daughter people that will verify this, that she's still a basula. Because what happened is, the husband brought Eidim that testified that she was mizana already before, after the Edison. And what the husband is saying is, listen, I have these Eidim that are saying your daughter was mizana. Bring Eidim that are going to be mazim, that are going to contradict these Eidim, or are going to uproot these first Eidim. So until then, my word stands. That's what it means. Again, the Gemara asks from other psukim. According to Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, it's understood. This is what the pasuk describes that the husband says, or the father rather says, "Ve'ela basule biti." Here, this is I can prove to you that my daughter is a basula. How is he proving this? So again, by a basula, the nature is that there's blood at the first relation. So the father could be coming with a garment, and he's saying, "Here, this is the blood. This proves that my daughter is still a basula." But according to the Rabbanon, if according to the Rabbanon they never had a relation yet, so then what does this mean that he's proving it with a garment that has blood on it? So again, the Gemara gives a similar answer. What he's saying is What he's saying is here, this will prove that my daughter is still a basula through bringing other Eidim to go against the first Eidim that the husband brought. Another pasuk, Bishlam Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. According to Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, it's understood. It says that what should the bezdin do? Uparsu as simla, they should spread out the garment. So we're going to take it literally. Let's see. Is there blood here or not? Is she a basula or not? El Rabbanon, but according to the Rabbanon, Mayu Parso Asimla. What does this mean to inspect the garment? Amar Rabavo says, Parsu Mash Asamla. Bezdin is going to spread out. In other words, Bezdin is going to interrogate this matter of this that the husband accused her of. Ketitanya, as it says in a Braisa, that's what it means. Uparsu Asimla. What does this mean? Not literally that they spread out a garment. Rather, what it means is, Malamed, this teaches us, Shabbat Meidim Shlazet. The witnesses of the husband that accuse her of having a relation with someone come. The Eidim Shlazet. And then the witnesses of the father that come and say, no, Imanu Yisim B'ma complaining, you were with us somewhere else. How could you testify about this? Or Biden Nisadava. Now Bezdin has to clarify this matter. Kisimlo Chadasha. They should clarify it. It should become clear like a new garment that has no fold or bends in it. They should clarify this matter. That's what the term Simla here means. However, according to Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, that learns that the pasuk is describing a scenario where the husband already had a relation with her, so then Dvarim Kiksava. He learns the pasuk literally, Simla Mamish, that they had relations already, and there's a garment, and Bezdin has to inspect the garment to see whether there was blood, if she's a psula or not. Shalach Rabbi Yitzchak bar Rav Yaakov bar Geyuri Mishmei Rav Yechanan. So Rabbi Yitzchak, he sent this halach in the name of Rav Yechanan as follows. Although we don't find anywhere else in the Torah that the Torah should make a distinction between bia kedarka lebia shaloi kedarka. If it's a relation that happened in the ordinary fashion or in the not an ordinary fashion. We never lamakis loinshin regarding giving malchus, regarding any other punishment, as Rashi here brings, regarding all isurim of arayas that the Torah says. It says in the Torah the term mishkevei isha, using a plural term, and for that we learn out that in any way that a man had a relation with a woman, he will get the same punishment. That's true all over. Avol, however, maitzi shemra, when it comes to maitzi shemra, chalak. Over here the Torah makes a distinction. He will not be chayiv to pay the money or the knas until he was bayil, the husband that is, was bayil shaloi kedarka. And when it says there shaloi kedarka, it means even shaloi kedarka. He had a relation with his wife in one way or another. And v'yotzi shemra kedarka. And what he's accusing her of is that she had a relation with another man after the Edison in the ordinary fashion. So over here we see that it's only if he accused her of a bayil kedarka in the ordinary fashion that he'll have to pay this knas and the malchus and so on. So the Gemara now wants to understand who is Rabbi Yechanan saying this according to. Keman, we had before the argument of Rabbanan and Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. Whether Maitzi Shemra applies only if he was already bayiler or even if he was not. So according to who did Rabbi Yechanan say this? Rabbanan, if he's saying it according to the Rabbanan, that can't be. Rabbanan said that even if the husband had absolutely no relations with his wife at all, the halach of Maitzi Shemra still applies. So why is Rabbi Yechanan saying over here, even if it was Shalei Kedarka? You don't need any relations of the husband with her. If Rabbi Yechanan was saying this according to Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, Idi Kedarka Beina. According to Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, the whole entire discussion of Maitzi Shemra only happens, as he proved from the psukim, only if the husband himself had a normal relation with his wife, and there is an argument whether there was blood or not. So Ella, therefore the Gemara corrects the statement that was sent in the name of Rabbi Yechanan. That Shalach Rav Kahana, Mishmei Rabbi Yechanan, Rabbi Kahana sent in the name of Rabbi Yechanan to say, Eina Chayev, that the husband will not be Chayev, Achi Yivol Kedarka, unless he himself already had marital relations with his wife in the regular way, and also v'yotzi shemra b'kedarka. And he accused her of having a relation with someone else before, after the Edison, also in the regular way. This is following Rab Eliezer ben Yaakov's opinion. Until he himself had a regular relationship with her. So we continue now with another Mishnah, which will discuss certain privileges and rights that a father has over and in the different things that his daughter owns and gets. The father has the rights over his daughter, bikidusheha, to marry her off to whoever he wishes, bikesef, ubishtar, ubibiyah. And he also gets the money of the kiddushin that the husband gives, goes to the father. And a shtar, one of the ways to be mekadesh a woman is also with a shtar, where you write inside that ayat mekadeshesli, so you would write that shtar to the father and give it to the father. Ubibiyah, and also biyah means that the father has the right to give her over to whoever he wishes for biyah, to have relations with her, and that itself, it also creates the kiddushin. Another thing, zakeh b'mitziyasa, if his daughter finds any lost item, the father gets it. Now, just again to clarify what we're speaking about, Rashi says right at the beginning of the Mishnah, we're talking about a daughter which is a ketana or a naira. Once she's a begeres, from the age of 12 and a half, she's out of the father's possession. But this whole Mishnah here is speaking about a katana and a naira. Zakai b'mitziyasa, so the father gets a mitziyah that she finds, her work, her income, and also ba'faras nidareh. If she makes a vow, the father could annul the vow. Mekabalas gita. If she got married, and this is only edison, the first stage of marriage, she does not yet leave the father's possession, so if the husband will now divorce her, the father is the one that gets the get for her. But however, if this girl, his daughter, got some kind of inheritance, she had a father of her mother, that she got an inheritance, so her father will now not have the rights to eat any of the fruits from her properties, b'chaya, in her lifetime. It's hers to keep, and the father doesn't get anything of this. Now, this is if she gets married to her husband, so now all those rights and whatever, all her income and everything all goes to the husband. And the husband actually gets from his wife even more than a father gets from the daughter. So yes, at all of a Baal, the Baal has an advantage over the father, that if his wife inherits somehow from somewhere properties, so the husband has the right to eat from the fruits of that properties in her lifetime. Now, the husband has an obligation to feed her, and he also has an obligation to redeem her if she gets captured, and he also has to make sure that she gets buried and cover the expenses of the burial. Rabbi Yehuda says, even a very poor individual, so in the Levaya, in those times, they would use a chalilin, they would use flutes in the eulogy of a person that passed away, so there should be no less than 2 flutes, and somebody that will, the lamentations, or someone that will bring people to eulogize this person that passed away. So the Gemara begins with the first thing it said in the Mishnah, that there's kesef kedushin, and that kesef kedushin goes to who? When the daughter is a katana or a naira, goes to the father. The kesef min alon. So where do we know that the father gets this kesef? Amar Rav Yehuda Makra, the pasuk says regarding a eved that leaves his master. This is actually regarding a amma ivriya. Just a second. Let me just look over here to see 100% what this pasuk is talking about. Yeah. It's talking about a amma ivriya that's leaving her master. The yotza chinam, that in certain situations she goes out without paying anything, and kasa. She doesn't have to pay for this. If the husband doesn't provide the basic obligations that he has to her, so then she leaves and she doesn't have to pay. Now the words en kesef are obviously extra. It says chinam, free. So why does it have to add en kesef?
Her master.
She doesn't have to pay any money to her master. Right. So from this, the extra words en kesef, you learn out en kesef la'adin zeh, that it's this master that does not get any money when she leaves. But v'yesh kesef la'adin acher. There's another case where a girl leaves her, so to speak, master that will get money. Wow. Manu, who's this other master? Aviyah, her father. When the father marries her off, so now the husband that gives kesef kiddushin, that goes to the father. Why would we not say that, yeah, there is another situation where kesef has to be paid for her to be released from her father, but who says the father gets it? Maybe the girl herself gets it. Maybe we should just say, en kesef, there's no money, but over here there is money, but she gets the money. Who says the father gets the money? And so the Gemara says, no, that's not logical. Hashta via mekabel kiddushel. The father is the one that has to receive the kedushin for her. Right? The father is the one that marries her off, and therefore when the husband is marrying her, he has to give the kedushin to the father. That's the way the act of the kedushin works. Instead of the husband usually giving the money to the wife or putting a ring on the wife's finger, over here the money is given initially to the father. Like we just quoted the pasuk before, father says, I give my daughter to this man, he marries her off. So she should keep the money. After the father is the one that marries her off and initially gets that money in the act of the Kiddushin, so now the daughter should keep this money. It doesn't make sense. The father keeps the money that he got. But the Gemara asks, we're talking about 2 different scenarios here. We're talking about a daughter that's a katana or a daughter that's a naira. Maybe I should say, Hanimili katana. Maybe this is all true regarding the katana. If the whole point here is that because it's the father, which is the only one that can marry her off, and he's taking the money initially, so therefore he keeps it, that's only true by a katana. By a katana, the only one that can marry her off is the father. A katana cannot marry herself off. The less lo yat. She has no hand to marry herself off. She has no das. That's what it really means. She's not mature enough that she has the understanding to marry herself off. So therefore, the father gets the money. Aval naira, when it comes to a naira, the isla yad. A naira, she's already bas mitzvah. She has her own das. So in such a case, So what's the halacha of a naira? A naira, her father can marry her off, or she can marry herself off. Either or. There's an option here. So in such a case, tikdash nafsha, tishko kaspa. Since she's mekadesh herself, so she should get the money as well. So even if the father marries her off, still she should be getting the money, because we see that she has her own das and she can marry herself off. So where do we know? The question is, even if you have a source in the case of a katana, that the father gets the kesef kedushin, but how do we know this regarding a naira? So the Gemara brings another source. Amakra, the pasuk says regarding a naira, benurea beisavia. Even as a naira, she's still in the possession of her father. She's in her father's home. From this we learn kol shvach neurim. Anything that, any income, anything she gains as a naira le'avia goes to the father, and therefore that includes the kesef kedushin as well. But the Gemara refutes this source as well. So Rav Huna said in the name of Rav as follows. We had this Gemara before. From where do I know that the income of a daughter goes to the father? Shenema, the answer is because the pasuk says that a father sells his daughter as a maid. So just like by the case of an amma, a maid, so whatever her work, it all belongs to her master. So too, a daughter, her income goes to the father. That's what Rav said is the source for this halacha. But the question is, Lamali, why do we need this source? Typically, min benurea beisavia. If we have another pasuk where it says that everything that's in the that a naira has goes to the father, so that should be the source, that the income goes to the father. Why did we have to learn out from a pasuk comparing to this, that he's allowed to sell her, and so on, and the master gets the income? Ella, the answer is, we can't learn out from Benureh Beisavir regarding a money matter. Why? That's a pasuk in the parsha of Afaris Nadarim, when she makes a vow that the father could annul her vows. It's a separate, it's not connected to money. If you'll argue and say, Neilif Mino. Okay, yeah, that says talking by the case of Afaris Nadarim that the father could annul her vows, but maybe we should learn from there that the same applies from money, that she's in the father's possession for money matters as well, that he gets the money of Kiddushin and of her income. Says the Gemara, we cannot learn out a money matter that the father has control over his daughter and receives this to a matter of Isser regarding a neder she makes. It's two different things. You can't compare. We have a rule. We don't learn out money from Isser. Maybe we should learn out that the father gets the money of the Kiddushin, or that the father gets the income from another place, from Knas. What we've been learning in the previous Pedic, and the beginning of this Pedic as well, when a person has to pay Knas for violating this girl, who gets the Knas? The father. And that says clearly in the Torah. So we should learn from there that he gets any other income. And it says the Gemara, we also have a rule, we can't compare money to Knas. Knas is a Gzeiras Melech. It's a decree that Hashem says you pay Knas. Money and Knas are never compared. If you'll further argue and say, maybe we should learn out from the payment of Baishas Pagam. When a man violated a girl, so as we've learned before, not only does he pay Knas, he also pays for her humiliation, the Baishas and the Pagam, her value went down. And who gets that payment? The father. So the Gemara says, no, we still can't learn out from there, because Shani Baishas Pagam is a different story. Davia Nami Shayich Bey. Because this is something that the father has a unique relation to. As we've learned before in the Gemara, since the father has the ability to marry off his daughter to whoever he wants, including if she gets humiliated by this, and including if her value will go down, like marrying her off to some despicable individual. So therefore, when there's payment of Baishas Pagam, that goes to the father. So therefore, from there, we can't learn out regarding income or regarding Kiddushin. There's various ways how to learn this Gemara, but this is one of the ways. Ella, so the Gemara comes back to the original limud that we brought before. The original pasuk the Gemara brought before, v'yatza chinam ein kasef, and we had the extra words of ein kasef. And the Gemara asked them that, okay, there are extra words, so we know that there's kesef kiddushin, but how do we know that it goes to the father? Maybe she, the daughter, gets the kesef kiddushin. So now the Gemara comes back to that and says, Ella, rather we go back to that drasha and we say, mistavre, it's logical to say dechim emayit, when we exclude and we say that there's another case of kesef that's not the same, like when this maid leaves her master and there's no kesef. We are excluding and saying that there's another case when she leaves that's going to be similar to this maid that leaves her master. And therefore, just like by the master, if there would be money to pay for her release, who would get that money? The master would get the money. So to over here, when the daughter leaves the father through marriage, who gets that money? The father gets the money. So therefore, in just the context of the pasuk, we understand that it's coming to say that this yitzia is similar to that case, and therefore the money goes to the father. So that's the source both for a katana and for a naira. But how could you say that we compare these two cases of this girl leaving a master and a girl leaving her father, but they're not comparable at all. Why? In the case of a master, she leaves his possession completely. And Yitzia Da'av, but in the case when there's a Kiddushin and she's leaving her father's house, she doesn't leave her father's possession. There's still chuppah, the second stage of marriage. And until that case, as we've learned in the Mishnah, she still really belongs to the father. Any income still goes to the father. And even if the husband would want to give a get, it goes to the father. So really hasn't left her father's possession at all. So how do we know that the father should get this money? It's not compared to the Yitzia there by the Odin, by the master. And says the Gemara, no, there is one aspect that we see that even here she does leave her father's possession. That when it comes to annulling vows, she is leaving the father's possession even after Edison. The Tnan, as we learned in the Mishnah, a girl after the first stage of marriage, Edison, the father and the master now will have to annul her vows because to some extent she left the father's possession, and therefore now the husband will also have to annul the vow in order for the vow to be nullified. So therefore we see the Yitzia taking place. She is leaving the father's possession through this marriage, and therefore we compare it to the Yitzia from the master, and the money like there, the money would go to the master. Over here as well, the money goes to the father. One more piece, the Gemara goes back to what it said in the Mishnah, Shtar Ubiyah, that the father could also has the right to marry off his daughter with shtar and bia. Minala, from where do we know this? Amakra, the pasuk says, V'hoisa le'ishache, that the father marries her off to, or this is actually a pasuk that says, B'chlal, when you get a woman that goes and gets married to a man. But we learn out from this, Iskish havayis la'adadi. I compare the various different ways of marriage to one another. If regarding kesef, it's the father that marries her off and gets the kesef. It's the same with the other ways of marriage, which is shtar and bia, that the father has the right to marry her off through shtar and bia. Zakai b'mitziasa, the Mishnah said that the father gets any mitzia, any lost item that this girl, his daughter, found. Why does the father get this? So the Gemara explains this is a takana midrabanan. Chachamim instituted this mishum eva, so that there should be no animosity between father and daughter. And as Rashi explains, the reason is the father is feeding his daughter. He's not really obligated minatayra to feed her. Chachamim instituted that he should feed her, so she shouldn't have to go find food for herself. But if the father is going and feeding her, and now she finds things and she keeps it for herself, the father will have hard feelings. I'm feeding you and everything you get from me, and if you find something, you don't give it to me. So Chacham instituted that there should be no animosity between father and daughter, so she has to give the mitzvah to her father.